making decisions for your IDP playoffs. That and more this week on the IDP Blitz special Thanksgiving edition. Hope everyone's going to have a great time with the people or places or things that are important to them. I'm thankful that somebody a while back, Gary, said, you know what? Why don't we put some defensive players in this fantasy football thing? Because that keeps us occupied. And certainly we got IDP Sharks, on Twitter, the Godfather, Gary Davenport. Let's do some weighing. Let's get our scales out, Gary, and see who's going to help us and who maybe isn't going to help us or not as much as we head towards the fantasy playoffs. Let's start up front because Jerry Hughes is still out there kicking, getting in the box score, not exactly in a plum spot. Trey Hendrickson, someone we had learned to count on, certainly had some very notable big plays for the Bengals in their Super Bowl run last year. Not as productive. Who do we like better going down the stretch?
If I had to pick between the two, I'm probably going to go Jerry Hughes, which is something I certainly didn't expect to be saying before the season started. Hendrickson, the problem with Hendrickson is the same as it was before the season started. He's one of those guys that is almost entirely sack reliant. His tackle numbers just aren't great. He get better tackle numbers than Yannick Ngakoue, but a similar guy. It's feast or famine. You're either going to get a big line or you're going to get nothing. And for most of this year, it's been nothing. And now this past week against Pittsburgh, he had a big game. And there was one early in the season, week 2 or week 3. But other than that, it's been pretty dry. And Jerry Hughes, it's amazing what he's doing at 34 years old. He's already up to as many sacks. He's got more sacks. The last time he had this many sacks in a season was 2014. And that was the last time he hit double digits. And that year was the last time he finished as a top 10 defensive lineman. So I'm not saying you should cut Trey Hendrickson or drop him or anything, but if I had to choose between them, I think Jerry Hughes is going to give you a little bit better floor, and he's been a more consistent producer to date this season.
Yeah, sometimes these players defy their situations and defy their age. Some of those old man game tricks working. Let's talk about a couple of young men and a couple of our old standbys at linebacker. And this is one, Gary, you and I both been playing IDP fantasy football long enough that we've seen this story play out every single year. Somebody that we did not even have on our radar in week 1 is a linebacker one and a player that when we look back, we say, I won the championship because. I won the championship because of Jack Sanborn. I won the championship because of Caden Ellis, who has really heated up in place of Pete Werner. But on the other side, we have some veterans who haven't been doing what we expected. And it's long enough in the season now that should we be patient? Is patient just insanity, waiting for something to change with Eric Kendricks and Lavonte David? So Sanborn and Ellis, the new stars, the new kids on the block who maybe we won't even talk about them again in fantasy leagues after this year. Eric Kendricks, Lavonte David, we've been talking about them for a long time.
Sanborn has been off the chain since the Roquan Smith trade. He's going out there and throwing up double-digit tackles just bang, 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 bang. I would probably, if I was ranking these 4 guys, Sanborn would be my number 1 guy. That would be the top. If you were able to get him off the waiver wire, like you said, it's the kind of pickup toward the end of the season that wins leagues. Caden Ellis has been really, I think he's got 17 or 18 total tackles these past 2 weeks, starting in place of Werner, and 2.5 sacks because Dennis Allen loves him some A-gap blitzes. I think Demario Davis is up to like 6 or 7 sacks already on the season. Ellis has 2.5 in 2 games. Ellis would probably be my number 2. Points are point, and this is the time of year, I don't care what your name is. I just care what that number is next to it. That's going to help get me because, so many teams right now are 6-5 or 5-6. And the playoffs have essentially already started for a lot of teams. You cannot afford another loss. You lose another game, you're done. You're dead. It's over. You're going to have to spend Christmas holiday talking to your family. Nobody wants that.
Go ahead.
My third guy would probably be Kendricks. Has picked up some, started slow. And he's still not producing at the level Jordan Hicks has. But he's up in probably LB2 territory. That'd be my third. And fourth, and I hate to say it, would be Lavonte David. Still a great NFL linebacker. And has been playing at a high level for a really long time. but a lot of it's his role. I mean, the Buccaneers trust him so much. He is so good in pass coverage that he spends a lot of time doing that. They have Devin White up at the line of scrimmage. Devin White's the guy attacking the line of scrimmage, and David is dropping back and covering backs and tight ends, and he does it well. But it's just not a role that's going to equate to a lot of fantasy production. I think David's like a low-end LB3 all season, and you can't trust him as anything more than that right now.
Yeah, fantasy football of the future on both sides of the ball, Gary, is ways that we can quantify contributions that don't show up on the stat sheet, right? The players that contribute, but not in ways that matter for fantasy football. That's why IDP fantasy football advice is so valuable, though, is we can see through some of these things and, like you said, divorce the name from the numbers. Sage Bob Harris always says that. And also our sense of how good a player is in NFL terms from how productive they can be. So those two things go together. Speaking of productive, Detroit has something, and it was sad seeing Tracy Walker go down. I felt like finally he was with a regime that wasn't jerking him around with playing time. We saw his hyper athletic, productive profile start to pay off. Enter one Kerby Joseph, who has been showing up. On the other hand, we have Kevin Byard, who for a long time was a standby. We're back at the safety position for Tennessee. So Kerby, Kevin, which K do we want in our lineup?
Joseph has become, these past few weeks, the player that we were hoping Kevin Byard would be at the beginning of the year. You know, he's got the combo going, solid tackle production, and he's making big plays, which is all you can ask from an IDP defensive back. Byard, his tackle numbers weren't what they have been the last couple of years, where he was putting up triple-digit tackles. Essentially, Byard for several years, either you were getting 5 or 6 interceptions, or he'd go out and throw up triple-digit tackles, which either way, however I get my points, I get my points. I prefer tackles just because it's more consistent, but just get me my number and I'm good. This year, he's not really doing either at a high level. He's not terrible. And again, it's not a guy that I would recommend dropping, but he's sitting on my bench in a couple leagues, whereas Kerby Joseph has turned into an every week starter. He's got that great situation for a safety in that he plays for a defense that spends quite a bit of time on the field, that tends to give up long drives, which, 3 and outs don't give you the kind of tackle opportunities that an 8, 9, 10, 11 play drive does. And the linebackers in front of him they're not awful, but Alex Anzalone, Malcolm Rodriguez, Derek Barnes, they're not world beaters either. So that safety gets, if you're playing behind Lavonte David and Devin White, a lot of times there just aren't that many tackle opportunities for the safety because the ball carrier never gets past the linebackers. That's not the case in Detroit. And Joseph, I think Joseph's safely in DB1 territory for the rest of the season. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Lions do in the offseason, with Tracy Walker, given what it looks like they have found in Joseph. It's going to be interesting to see whether they look at Walker's contract, maybe try to trim a little fat off the salary cap and give that job to the kid full time next year.
Yeah, good problem to have. Detroit's defense getting a little better each week, but like you said, it's a very rich environment for IDP fantasy value. When it came to rich value at linebacker, for years, nobody was better than Shaquille Leonard. And I guess we should have known, Gary, as soon as you start hearing he's got a leg problem, and then they just figured out that the leg problem has something to do with the back problem, ankle problem. You get into issues with nerves, and that's never anything you want to hear about a football player because of the wear and tear their body takes. Some of these things can be, career ending. So with that in mind, we're not going to be using Shaquille Leonard in our fantasy leagues for the rest of this year. Should Zaire Franklin, Bobby Okereke, yes. Shaquille Leonard, no. So is this the last moment you send them off and get what you can because the writing's on the wall? Or is this the exact right moment to get in because you still have a chance to have a real difference maker on your IDP team and he's as cheap as he has been since he was a rookie?
It's a heartbreaking situation, really, because Leonard's rookie season was unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever seen a better rookie season out of a linebacker. I mean, just phenomenal. 150 tackles, sacks, interceptions, forced fumbles, just everything. All game, every game. I honestly don't know what the future holds for Shaquille Leonard. I want to hope and believe that he'll be able to get back to being that dominant defensive player that we saw the first 2 or 3 years he was in the NFL. But like you said, these injuries, and they just keep mounting and mounting and mounting. And, they say that they've got the situation fixed and he's going to be all right. He goes out there for a couple weeks. Next thing you know, he's missing time again. Now he's had surgery again. The problem with selling is, what are you going to get for him? I mean, if you sell Shaquille Leonard right now, you'll be lucky to get 50 cents on the dollar. And it'll probably be more like 35 or 40. I don't think the Colts are going to move on from him next year, if only because I don't think they can. His contract, from what I've seen, they would eat, I want to say like $24 million in dead cap next year if they let him go. They do have an out after 2023 that wouldn't be prohibitively expensive. So I think he'll have next year to show that he can still be a difference maker for that team. If I had to choose between buying or selling, I would probably buy if I can get him for that 35 or 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, I agree. Toss out an offer, a 3rd-round pick. You never know. A prospect on offense. You might be surprised. And hey, if the worst thing that happens is he gets a ring on your bench as an honorary member of a championship team, he deserves that. He certainly helped us win a lot of championships, get chances to win championships. That's what we try to do at Footballguys. Gary Davenport, John Norton, also part of our IDP Blitz crew here, Matt Schauf. You can find his work at Draft Sharks. We've got a great IDP team delivering you projections, advice, everything you need to dominate your league. We join you every Wednesday afternoon here on the IDP Blitz. You can also find us wherever you find your podcasts. And again, we want to wish a very happy Thanksgiving for whatever the people, places, things that you enjoy in your life that you're thankful for. Get an extra helping. I know we love getting to serve you. We're thankful for you because you are always so classy.